June 6, 1944. 0:52 hours. 5 miles west of Sainte-Mère-Église, Normandy. The engines of the C-47 Dakota hammer through the dark like iron fists. Inside the aircraft, the red jump light throws a dull glow over 30 men packed shoulder to shoulder, knees pressed into parachutes, hands gripping static lines with numb fingers. The air smells of oil, sweat, and cordite. Somewhere below, the French countryside is invisible, swallowed by cloud, smoke, and anti-aircraft fire. Private First Class John Steele of the 82nd Airborne Division shifts his weight and peers toward the open door. Wind tears at his helmet liner. He can hear flak now, sharp, angry bursts snapping close enough to rattle the fuselage. Tracer rounds streak upward, red arcs clawing at the sky. Someone mutters a prayer. Someone else vomits into his helmet. At the front of the stick, Lieutenant Colonel Edward Cross checks his watch. They are late. The formation is breaking up. Pilots are dodging flak, clouds, and fires from the naval bombardment still thundering along the coast. The jump zones, carefully planned on maps back in England, are now guesses at best. The red light stays on longer than it should. Below them, Sainte-Mère-Église burns. Earlier that evening, German soldiers of Grenadier Regiment 1058 had been roused from their bunks by shouts and bells. A house fire near the town square had spread quickly, flames licking through thatched roofs. Civilians and soldiers alike formed bucket lines under the orange glow. Rifles were stacked. Helmets lay on the cobblestones. No one was thinking about parachutists. Then the sky opened. At 0:49 hours, the first paratroopers fell directly over the town. Silhouetted against firelight, their white parachutes looked, to German eyes, almost theatrical. Easy targets. Machine guns swung upward. Rifles cracked. Men shouted and laughed. Fallschirmjäger, one German corporal scoffed, peering up. Amerikaner sind verrückt. American paratroopers drifted helplessly into the chaos. Some were cut down before their boots touched the ground. Others landed in trees, on rooftops, in flooded fields. Equipment scattered everywhere, radios smashed, bazookas lost, ammo containers drifting away into the dark. John Steele never saw the town until it was too late. The green light flashes. Go. The stick surges forward. The slipstream rips men from the door one by one. Steele steps out and the night vanishes. The parachute opens with a brutal snap. Below him, Sainte-Mère-Église is fully visible now. Flames, muzzle flashes, running figures. He's drifting straight toward the church. Gunfire chews the air around him. Steele's chute snags on the church steeple. He slams hard against the stone, wind knocked from his chest. The harness holds him there, dangling nearly 50 feet above the square. He plays dead instinctively, chin slumped, arms loose. Bullets punch through the canopy above him. Men fall screaming all around. On the ground, German infantrymen point and fire, then quickly lose interest. To them, this is proof of what they already believe. The American airborne drop is a disaster. Scattered men. Broken units. Paratroopers hanging from trees and buildings like laundry. No tanks. No artillery. No clear command structure. Compared to the disciplined formations they expect from an invasion force, this looks amateurish, almost desperate. By 1:30 hours, German reports filtering up the chain of command describe the situation as confused but contained. One officer writes that the enemy drop appears uncoordinated. Another notes that most Americans seem isolated and disorganized. They are wrong. Outside the town, in the hedgerows and fields, small groups of paratroopers are already moving. Men link up by whispered passwords and touch signals. A sergeant with a compass takes charge. A lieutenant with no radio sketches a plan in the dirt. They don't know where most of their regiment is. They don't know who survived the drop. But they know the objective. Sainte-Mère-Église. The first town to be taken in the invasion must not be lost. By 2:00 hours, German sentries hear movement in places that should be empty. A machine gun nest goes silent. A patrol fails to return. Shots ring out, short, controlled bursts, then stop. The laughter fades. In the darkness, the scattered Americans are beginning to gather. June 6, 1944. 2:17 hours. Hedgerow south of Sainte-Mère-Église. Sergeant Harrison Summers crawls through wet grass, Thompson slung low, helmet smeared with mud to dull the shine. Around him, 8 men move in staggered silence, none from the same stick, none who landed anywhere near each other. One still has a torn riser hanging from his harness. Another has no rifle and carries a scavenged German MP40 instead. This is not how airborne doctrine looks on paper, but it is how it works in the dark. Summers halts and raises a fist. Ahead, the outline of a stone wall cuts across a narrow lane leading into town. A German machine gun, MG-42 by the sound of it, chatters briefly then stops. Not firing wildly now. Controlled bursts. Searching. The Germans are adjusting. Inside Sainte-Mère-Église, Lieutenant Oberleutnant Karl-Heinz Richter stands near the square, helmet unbuckled, cigarette shaking slightly between his fingers. He has already sent 2 patrols out. One never came back. The other returned missing a man, babbling about Americans appearing out of nowhere. Richter scoffs, but unease creeps in. Scattered drops don't do this. At 2:30, a German runner reports that telephone lines to battalion headquarters are down. Another says a roadblock north of town has gone silent. Richter orders flares fired, green then white, trying to illuminate the approaches. The flares go up and reveal nothing. Because the Americans are no longer blundering through open ground. They are hugging hedgerows, moving through back gardens, slipping between stone barns and cattle pens. Paratroopers trained to fight alone are now doing what they were meant to do, converging without orders. Captain Alexander Patch, 3rd Battalion, 505th Parachute Infantry Regiment, crouches behind a low wall near the eastern edge of town. He has 15 men. That's all he can find. No radio. No heavy weapons. But he has a map case and a watch. Patch makes a decision. They will take the town anyway. The plan is simple because it has to be. 2 squads push toward the square from opposite directions. One will hit the German command post near the cafe. The other will seize the crossroads and cut off reinforcements. No prolonged firefight. Speed matters more than strength. At 2:45, the first shots crack. A German sentry collapses near the bakery, taken down with a single round. Another turns, raises his rifle, and is tackled from behind, knife flashing once in the dark. The Americans move faster now. Thompsons bark inside narrow streets, the sound amplified by stone walls. Grenades explode with concussive force, shattering windows, echoing through alleys. German soldiers scramble for cover, shouting conflicting orders. Some fire wildly into shadows. Others pull back instinctively, assuming a larger force is advancing. Because that is what it sounds like. By 3:10, the illusion is complete. German infantrymen report attacks from all directions. Flares reveal Americans where none were seconds before. A machine gun opens up, then stops abruptly as its crew is hit from the flank. A mortar crew abandons its tubes after grenades land among them. Lieutenant Richter tries to re-establish control. He orders a counterattack from the north side of town. The squad moves 10 meters before automatic fire cuts them down. Richter realizes something chilling. These Americans are coordinating. At 3:30, the church square, where paratroopers died helplessly hours earlier, is suddenly contested. American soldiers fire from doorways and windows. German troops pull back behind carts and rubble. The church bell tower looms overhead, silent now. Above them, John Steele still hangs from his harness, numb and barely conscious. He hears English voices below. American voices. Someone fires upward by mistake, then stops. Jesus Christ, a voice whispers. There's one of ours. The town is slipping. German reinforcements attempt to push in from the west, but run straight into roadblocks manned by men who shouldn't be there. Paratroopers with no heavy weapons use mines, grenades, and captured arms to stall them. Every delay compounds the confusion. By 4:15, Captain Patch reaches the square and signals with a flashlight, 2 short, 1 long. Shapes emerge from the shadows. Dirty. Exhausted. Alive. They've done it. At dawn, Sainte-Mère-Église belongs to the 82nd Airborne. The German infantry who mocked the scattered parachutes now understand the truth. These men were never harmless. They were seeds. And overnight they took root. June 6, 1944. 4:58 hours. Sainte-Mère-Église, Normandy. The first light of dawn seeps over the rooftops, pale and uncertain, cutting through the smoke that still hangs in the streets. Fires smolder where grenades went off hours earlier. Broken glass crunches under boots. The town smells of burned wood, cordite, and blood. For the men of the 82nd Airborne, the silence is almost unsettling. Private John Steele is still hanging from the church steeple when 2 paratroopers finally reach him. His legs are numb, arms swollen, fingers barely responsive. They cut him loose carefully, lowering him to the ground just as German artillery shells begin to whistle in the distance. Steele doesn't say a word. He just nods, face gray, and accepts a rifle. There is no time for anything else. Captain Patch moves through the square, counting heads. Fewer than 60 men hold the town, fragments of companies that should number hundreds. Some wear German helmets picked up from the street. Others have ammunition belts looped around their necks like scarves. Radios are scarce. Medical supplies even more so. But the crossroads is theirs. And that matters more than numbers. German command realizes it too late. At 5:10, reports reach divisional headquarters that Sainte-Mère-Église has fallen. Not infiltrated. Not contested. Taken. The reaction is disbelief. How could scattered parachutists drop chaotically at night seize a defended town before sunrise? A counterattack is ordered immediately. From the north, elements of the 1057th Grenadier Regiment begin probing the outskirts. Mortars thump. Shells slam into hedgerows and houses. One round hits the church wall, sending stone fragments into the square. The bell tower shudders but holds. The Americans dig in where they stand. Machine guns are set up in upper-story windows. Bazookas, salvaged from scattered drops, are positioned to cover roads. Paratroopers who have never met before exchange names quickly, then share ammunition. You cover that alley. I'll take the corner. Don't waste rounds. At 6-0, German infantry advance in squad strength, moving cautiously now. No laughter. No mockery. They've learned. The first German assault is repelled with disciplined fire. An MG team tries to deploy near the western road. A bazooka round smashes into the wall behind them, collapsing it in a cloud of dust. The survivors fall back. The second assault comes from the south. This one gets closer. German troops push into the edge of town, exchanging fire house to house. A paratrooper is hit near the cafe, bleeding badly. Another drags him into cover, tearing open a bandage with his teeth. The fighting is brutal and close, shots fired from 10 feet away, grenades tossed through doorways, shouted warnings echoing down narrow streets. Still the line holds. By 7:30, the sound of engines reaches the town, not German. American. Columns from Utah Beach are moving inland. The airborne mission, chaotic as it was, has done its job. The roads are blocked. The bridges are contested. Sainte-Mère-Église remains in American hands long enough for the invasion to breathe. German commanders finally grasp what happened in the night. What looked like disorder was design. What seemed like weakness was adaptation. The airborne drop was never about perfection, it was about paralysis. Confusing the enemy. Forcing them to react everywhere at once. And it worked. The German infantry who mocked falling parachutes now face a reality they cannot undo. The Americans are not retreating. More are coming. Tanks will follow. Artillery will speak soon enough. By mid-morning, Sainte-Mère-Église is firmly held. The first town liberated on D-Day was not taken by massed armor or overwhelming firepower, but by scattered men who refused to wait for orders, who turned chaos into momentum, and who proved in one long night that mockery means nothing when dawn arrives.